Hey, vintage guitar vibers from Nashville, Tennessee. How are you tonight? Good to see everybody again. We have a really special, wonderful guitar for you this evening. Just an absolute gem of a guitar from 1952. Back in 1951, actually, Mary Ford and Les Paul were in Milwaukee visiting veterans, injured veterans, and they went to a veteran's bedside. And Les Paul was talking to an injured veteran, asking what he missed and what he couldn't do anymore. And he said he couldn't play the guitar anymore. And that made Les Paul, of course, very concerned. So he said, sure you can. Here's what you have to do. And Les had a guitar that he showed him how to play with just his left hand by making compression. But you have to have a certain kind of guitar to be able to do that. So Les had a sponsorship from Gibson at the time for what was called an ES-295. He called Gibson and asked them to make a completely gold guitar so that this wonderful veteran could have a completely, the richest looking guitar in the world, all gold. So Gibson had never done a gold guitar before. They did this and did a magnificent job. They didn't know how to do it, but they just did it because Les Paul asked them to. So they made this all gold guitar, as you can see. Gold front, gold back, gold neck, gold everything, gold hardware. And because, you know, it's from 1952, a lot of this gold that was on this trapeze tailpiece has faded away a bit. It's become a little oxidated. So it's not as gold as it once was, but I think it's way cooler, right? So Les Paul had to make this guitar, and he even put gold leaf in the pickguard. It's not on the pickguard, it's in the pickguard. So when you play this guitar, it doesn't rub off. It's an amazing, and this guitar is in exceptional condition for 1952, by the way, if you're looking at it. But Gibson made the guitar and sent it to the serviceman, the veteran, and his family up in the Milwaukee area, but sadly the veteran had passed before the guitar got to him. So the widow sent the guitar back to Les Paul with her very gracious thank yous and thank you for doing that. Les Paul got the guitar back and loved it so much that he decided he was going to endorse this guitar. So back in very early 1952, they created these guitars, and here at the end there's an inscription of Les Paul right here on the end of the tailpiece, as you can see, scribed right in the metal. You might not be able to see it, but it's there. And so for the very early 1952s, his name was on this tailpiece. Later in 1952, because Les Paul and Mary Ford were starting to play venues where it required more volume, because this is a hollow body design, he was getting more feedback issues. As a result, they presented Les Paul with a solid body guitar that solved the feedback issues. That became the first Les Paul solid body guitar. Again, gold top is what they did as well. He wanted a gold guitar, so they did gold like they did on this. And then they removed his name from this tailpiece because he was now endorsing that particular guitar. So if you find one of these, an ES-295, with this inscription on the tailpiece right here, it is one of the very earliest and precursors to the actual Les Paul. So this led to the gold top Les Paul of 52, which led to the evolution of the Les Pauls through 54 with the different tailpieces, and eventually the bursts in 50, the PAF in 57 pickup, and then the bursts in 58, 59, and 60. So this is actually the precursor to those guitars from that lineage and description. Les was playing kind of jazzy rock and roll at the time, so it was a kind of an archtop type of a sound with these two P90 pickups, which was Gibson's answer to Fender's single coil pickups. They just did a beautiful job right out of the box with these P90s. They're rich and distinctive and articulate, and they're just fantastic. So they put two P90s on here, of course switchable. Up here with the Bakelite knob, you can tell it's the original because of this coloration of the Bakelite. And of course down is the bridge, then the middle position is for both of them, and up here is the neck position. So you can get a phenomenal amount of tone along the volume and tone distribution down here with these knobs. This guitar can cover a lot of ground, all the way from jazz to rockabilly, And of course, you'll recognize this being the kind of a Scotty Moore guitar. This particular guitar was created in the same batch as Scotty Moore's, given the number that you can see inside on this white label. Later they had orange labels, but this white label inside here, upon our research with this guitar, indicated that this was made just shortly after Scotty's and probably in the same batch. So, cool, right? It's the Scotty Moore guitar that he played with Elvis. And that really became a hallmark guitar in the entire history of rock and roll. So that's where this guitar sits. And when you find one of these, you've really found something that's really quite special. So my daughter and I found this from a lovely gentleman and decided that we needed to have this in our collection, and so we bought it. And this is such an amazing piece of history, and given its incredible condition, I mean, there's no belt wear on the back, and this is the original finish. And you're going to say gold top, well, it kind of looks pretty green. Well, the kind of paint, they were just making it up as they went. The kind of paint they used on these, the finish, was gold, very gold when they put it on here. But over the period of time, and this has been on there for many, many years, it's called greening. The gold actually greens on. That's how you can tell that it's the real deal, because it's greening. The new finishes they use are less likely to do that because they've changed it so it stays gold. I personally think this is infinitely cooler. When you have the greening into this gold, it's spectacular. And so that's what's happened to here, you know, all over the entire guitar. You can see that. It's got a beautiful jazz kind of a neck on it. It's an arch top, and its tone, as you can hear, it's just wonderful. When you plug it in and play with the tones, you can get some amazing variability within the concept of the guitar. I touched on this trapeze piece just for a second. This was the initial trapeze tailpiece that Gibson used from the late 40s actually until approximately 1950, late in 53, when they changed to a hardtail back here because this became hard to play on a lot of the Les Pauls. I've got a couple of the old Les Pauls where we've had to put a Joe Glazer bridge on here that makes it playable. On this particular guitar, you don't have to do that. This plays fabulous just the way it is. You've also got a cantilevered neck. If you can't see that there's the neck is just off the body right here at these end frets. So it's called a cantilevered neck. Obviously, you don't have that on the Les Pauls. So this is a very unique guitar from a construction and historical perspective. This guitar even has the original frets, believe it or not, from 1952, which is just amazing. And they play almost like a fretless wonder. You hardly know that they're there, and they've retained their articulation, and the intonation on the guitar is just terrific all the way up the guitar. So it just works extraordinarily well. So that's, you know, in a brief synopsis, this wonderful historical 1952 Gibson ES-295 in all gold, and all thanks to Mary Ford and the fabulous Les Paul for making it possible and trying to make a veteran's dreams come true. That's where this guitar came from, man. So that's really cool. And you can see it's just a wonderful piece. So when you find one of these, I highly suggest going ahead and getting it. if it's not all crazy. A lot of these have been taken apart over the years, so you have to be careful about replaced parts and things like that. So there we have it. We have a wonderful, very early Gibson ES-295 Scotty Moore, Les Paul ES-295. So there we have it. Guitar Vintage Vibes from Nashville. Good night, everyone. Be kind to each other. We'll talk to you soon.